Hey, have you got me? Sorry, mate. Audio, just give me a sec. Am I coming through there, Nick? Can't seem to hear anyone.
How's now?
I'm just flicking on and off. I can't hear you. Says my mute is off. I've got what looks like a mute sign next to your name on my screen. It's not getting any audio.
Can you hear me now? Okay, you can hear me. Now I just need to be able to hear you for some reason. Let me see.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Holy fuck, hell. All right, I'm gonna
Good.
put these in.
We're obviously not in the IT department, right?
No, Jesus. I'm usually so good at that as well. Fucking hell. It's because I got the two screens going. It just messed me up.
Right. Sorry
Right,
about that.
No, don't be. I'm just going to start to let a few of these people in.
Okay.
Just so I don't leave them waiting too long. And I've just got someone messaging, so I'll just see what they're struggling with. All right, crew, if you can hear me, not help me, obviously I'm struggling, but if you can hear me, I'm just letting you in as a few more people jump on and we'll get started in a minute, but thank you for joining us. Let me just check. Welcome Mon, welcome Luna, welcome Anne-Marie. Sup, legends. All right.
Hello.
Yo. We just got one or two struggling to log in. You guys get in all right? Was it simple enough?
Yeah, it was fine. Easy.
Yeah. Logging in was fine. It was just the audio. I don't know what that was.
Oh, no, I've just got one or two other people struggling to get in, so I'm just checking what's going on with them. Yeah, that was just me with the audio. Don't worry. Okay. Let's see how we doing. Good. All right. We'll just let that one more person just jumping on. We'll give it 1 more minute and then we'll get started, guys. But welcome.
So who have we got?
All right. So this is majority of the mentorship so far and featuring Anne-Marie as well. So you guys are all PTs and coaches so far. So yeah, you guys, if you've got any, maybe if those who are just logging on, if you keep your audio on, if there's anything you'd like to share about what you're interested about today's call, just so James can get a bit of an idea of, thinking about you when he's answering some of the questions, that'd be amazing to make sure you get the most out of it, just while I help these people struggling with the tech to get in. If you got any thoughts or questions or things you'd like to hear, chuck them out now. Shoot your shot.
Do you normally do that in the chat, Nick? Is that a good way to do it?
Yeah. So if you guys want to chuck any questions in the chat feature, that way we'll make sure we come back to them at the end, or James can have a read of them now to make sure we kind of get across them as we go.
Yeah, I mean, look, guys, I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to be on the call. So at the absolute bare minimum, I want you to at least get something of value before we all hang up. So sometimes people have different reasons that they, dial into a certain conversation. So, the more transparent you are in terms of what you're hoping to get out of it, hopefully I can answer some of the things to make it worthwhile.
All right. Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Jimmy. We just got that last person getting on, and then we'll crack on. And this one will be recorded, crew. So if for any reason you need to boost, you'll be able to catch it up as well. But we're going to see if we can click this over within an hour and get going. So we might just kick off, Jimmy, just because I'll just add anyone who jumps in as we go. So welcome to the call, team. We got a guest speaker on today, James Clare, who is a good friend of mine, long-term friend of mine, as well as a colleague in terms of, well, what I feel like is business, entrepreneurship, coaching, and training itself. As you can see from the cover image, Jimmy likes to lift heavy as well and kind of explore what his body's capable of, which those of you who know me, I'm all about that too. So we've had somewhat of a shared timeline in that we've worked for the same franchise for a number of years, albeit at different locations, but I guess that's how we connected. And I don't know about you guys, but I find myself gravitating towards mindsets of people who are looking to grow, looking to learn, looking to better themselves, and are abundant in that nature. And for me, Jimmy is that to a T. And I've found more and more over the years that I'm starting to look at almost closing in my circle of the people I find who really support my growth and are looking to do the same themselves. And it is rare to find someone that I guess can genuinely listen to your successes, your failures, your in-betweens, and not relate it to their own personal life, and purely just be able to listen to what you're doing without feeling like they're doing better than you, whether they're doing worse than you, or sitting in the middle, if that makes sense. And for me, James is one of those strong people in my life, so I really value his time. And that's why I was very excited to get him on the call with you guys, and for everyone who listens to this call later as well. So just a little bit about, I guess, why I feel like we create such good synergy is that the thing I noticed first, and I think you guys will look for this as well in a mentor and a friend, and what I think is a good marker of that kind of conversation is that I find myself disconnected from conversations about trash TV, about what happened on the weekend, about what family drama is going on, all these kinds of more basic level, I guess, conversations. And I find whenever I talk to Jimmy, for example, we will talk about solving world problems, what's coming up in the future that we can possibly prepare ourselves for or apply ourselves to, and as well as self-improvement, how to best support your future growth. And they're the conversations that I could just, live on, so to speak. They're the kind of ones that I'd feel like you wouldn't need to eat and you could just, chat all day on that kind of topic. So that's a little bit about why I've chosen Jimmy to come on and speak to us today. But without further ado, let's do a little bit less waffling for me because it's not about me on this call. I'd just like to welcome you, James Clare. Thanks for coming on today to talk to the crew. I'm stoked that you carved out some time for us. And let's kick off with just a little about you, I guess, and your health and fitness career and anything you'd like to intro with.
Yeah, sure. So I guess a little bit of storytelling is always good to begin with. So my career started off studying nutrition. I did a degree in the UK. And sorry, can you guys hear the audio? I'm outside here and there's a bit of noise traffic. Just tell me if it's a problem. All good? So when I started in the fitness industry, I found myself in a team of 18 trainers at Virgin Active back in the UK. And at the time, there wasn't really anybody taking a stance on teaching nutrition. And that was the degree that I had sort of come into the industry with. And I sort of just seen an opportunity, I guess is the easiest way I can reflect on that time in my life. I was 22, 23, just as fresh out of university. And I just felt like really out of place. There was 18 trainers on the gym floor. I was probably the smallest of the boys, straight out of uni, had no money to buy food back in the day. I was in a really fancy club in London. You know, the clients were quite affluent. It was a nice part of London. And I just found this fear voice in my head, you know, like, what am I doing here? How am I going to possibly attract clients? And why would they want to pay me? So I know that doesn't really ring synergy with what the topic of today is about, but I think it's good to be honest and vulnerable, at least to begin with, because we all have a start point, right? And that was definitely my start point. I was fearful and I didn't really know how I was going to make it in this industry. You know, I sort of really felt like I was truly at the bottom of the ladder. And the only thing that I had that was a point of difference was I had upskilled myself in nutrition. Fast forward to today, it probably seems like, yeah, of course, you know, why would you work in the fitness industry if you don't want to learn nutrition? But back then it wasn't as popular. You know, most people were fascinated about doing the latest Charles Poliquin strength course, or, you know, they'd done some type of strength and conditioning qualifications. And it was all about teaching exercise. And of course, that is a large part of what we do in gyms, of course. But that led me to just follow my intuition. So first month, had no clients. I was getting paid to fold gym towels in Virgin Active. You know, you basically clean the machines, you say hello to clients, you practice in that service. And I spoke to the marketing team and I said, look, you know, I know that this isn't something that Virgin Active typically do, but I would really like to start to educate your clients on the topic of nutrition. And they helped me put together like a little flyer. They put it around the lifts and the reception area. And within 3 weeks, I had my first nutrition seminar on. I just stuck to the basics, things that were really easy for me to teach. And obviously, I just took the assumption that most people are going to the gym to try and lose weight. So I just did it on, you know, the secrets of fat loss or something of that kind. And it was great. I had 30 people come to my seminar. And I think I signed up 3 or 4 clients on the day. So it was like, wow, okay, I've found something here that I could stand out in the gym and have a point of difference, because I wasn't the biggest guy, I wasn't the strongest guy. I certainly didn't know the most about exercise. And I knew that when we were signing people up, or the sales team was signing people up, that I probably wasn't going to be top of the list, right? So I just started to think outside the box. And I think when I think back to the early stages of my career, that has been very much how I've applied myself at different stages throughout my career. So that's just a small win that I had early on to give me the confidence to back myself, I suppose. So, you know, that I didn't necessarily have to just copy what every single trainer in the gym was doing to get clients. I just, you know, I guess I was the black sheep. I sort of tried to think differently and try to do something a little bit different. And it worked, you know. So month 1, I had sort of 4 clients after my first seminar. And then I started to get them to track their food. And it was clear that these people were getting results in comparison to some of the other guys that had been around a bit longer than me, but perhaps just had never raised the conversation around nutrition. And I started to help people lose weight. And obviously, anyone who has had a client that they've helped lose weight, I'm sure to some degree now you've opened up that conversation around nutrition. You can't really achieve that result unless you're doing it. I assume that that's just common sense now. But the other trainers started to take notice. And all of a sudden, within about 6 months, I'd say, the other trainers were interested in, you know, starting to offer some of what I was doing. And it just helped me with my confidence, which is the one thing that I was struggling with more than anything. You know, my first year in the fitness industry, I struggled with confidence massively. And these little wins that I was getting through helping clients get a great result through just teaching nutrition bought me enough time to then go and learn the exercise stuff. And I just used to watch the more senior guys in the gym, how they would train, how they train their clients. And eventually over time, you know, you learn, you do. You know, I was always willing to learn. I'd come from uni, so I had that student mentality. And by about year 2, you know, I was full. Fast forward 2 years, I was full. I was getting good results with my clients. And, you know, I was then looking for more. You know, that was the reality. I found myself, okay, I'm in a gym where I don't get to decide the rate. I get paid the hourly rate that Virgin Active decide. How else can I make more money for the time I'm going to spend here every day? And being a nutritionist, I obviously had already started to help them with their diets. And the next most obvious thing to do was to start to recommend supplements to them. So, you know, for me, I was already using protein powder, doing weight training. I had some awareness around some of the general things that we'd see, you know, like the multivitamins and the zincs for the men, the magnesium for the athletes, the basic things that I would now consider like that, you know, most people should be using. And I just went and found companies that were willing to provide like a wholesale price to me. And through that relationship, I was then able to just, you know, earn an extra couple of $100. Well, this was pounds back in the UK. And yeah, that started me in that mindset of maybe I was never destined to be an employee. I was always thinking about how an entrepreneur needs to think, right? If you're in business, if you're self-employed, if you're working for yourself, you can't rely on other people. You know, you have to be creative in how you make money. And to me, I always had no issue if I felt like I was genuinely doing the work that I was trying to do, and that was help people.
I need to get more around trading lingo.
Sorry, I missed that. Was that a question? No.
The mic going off. Sorry there, but I've just muted someone. So keep going.
Sorry. Yeah, so a lot of people, so like Nick, later in my career, I ended up managing a team. You know, I felt like one of the skills I wanted to obtain after having a successful PT client base was to learn how to manage a group of people. So when I came to Australia, I worked for Vision Personal Training, same as Nick. And, you know, after a couple of years of being a full-time PT in that environment, I ended up managing a team of about 10 trainers. And I started to realize that a lot of the guys just had a big resistance to the word sales. And they just felt like it was a word they didn't want to associate with. They felt uncomfortable about this whole idea of sales. And whenever I've worked in health and fitness and coaching in this way, I've never, ever had any resistance about selling anything, because I always felt like I was coming from a place of genuinely trying to help somebody. And I think because that was my reference point, I was always able to just be genuine. I never felt like I was pushing anything onto anybody. And I always had the goal in mind of just helping the person I was talking to. And as long as I was associating myself with the things that I would personally use for myself, I never had the problem of sharing that with the client. You know, if I was using this product for myself, I had no problem at all recommending it as a product to the client in their journey. So for those of you who have coached nutrition and you've sort of gone over, like, just say something like a 30-day food plan, it became very apparent to me very quickly that a lot of clients massively undereat protein, almost 80 to 85% of them. Whenever I've looked at a food journal in their first 30 days, they're shockingly low. So as soon as you understand some of the main principles of fat loss, the first thing that you guys should be trying to do is get your clients' protein intake to like that optimal level. And, you know, whether you agree with the literature or not, it's around 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. That seems to work quite well when I have applied that principle. Have a look at it yourself. If you don't already track your clients' nutrition, have a look at where they sit. You'd be amazed at how low it can actually be. And they're at the same time, especially if they're fat loss clients, a lot of the feedback that they come with is that they're struggling to eat more food. And therefore, the idea of recommending a protein supplement to them was just an easy conversation. It was like, I felt like I had a solution to their problem. They wanted the fat loss. They weren't able to physically eat any more chicken breasts or whatever the protein source might be. And to be able to recommend like a smoothie to them that was, I felt tasted great. I shared a recipe. Most clients that I recommended it to, I would say at least 6 or 7 out of 10 would take it. And if you're a busy trainer and you've got a full book, you know, for me back in the day when I was at Vision, I was doing 35 to 40 hours of clients every week. And that could have been anywhere from like 25 to 35 active clients that I was seeing every week. If I could set some targets around 7 out of 10 of them people buying protein from me once a month, again, it was just a nice little way of adding a little bit to my revenue line. Again, because at Vision, I didn't have the ability to change my hourly rate. That was decided by the gym I was in. So the only way I could possibly change how much money I was going to earn was to sell more programs and get commissions from sales, or to, you know, try and add more value in different ways. So supplements was one of the first things that I really tapped into when I was just at the level of being a coach, that drastically changed my income week to week. So yeah, does that sort of get a good start? Does that answer what you were hoping?
That's a very strong start. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So, and guys, if there's any questions on any of that so far, I just chucked it in the chat. Feel free to. Much of an intro, but James' real passion, and correct me if I'm wrong, really lies in a lot of nutritional work. And he's had great success with that over the years, from both studying it to teaching it to coaching it, to rolling it out into what he's doing now, which we'll get more into soon. I guess, yeah, maybe if you're up for that, James, let's go into that next kind of that's taken you now, in terms of you've gone from a lot of coaching and working for other people and being in gyms to now moving towards things that you're really passionate about and the kind of work you really want to be doing. And you kind of, I guess, going with the flow a little bit with what's in front of you and taking those opportunities that come. So maybe let's look at post vision and post working for other people, kind of how you've made that jump, and I guess leading into what you're doing now.
I'm just going to relocate. Someone's decided to put a lawnmower on. Okay.
Perfect. And he's like, fuck this guy.
Yeah. So,
all right.
I basically came over to Australia on a work visa, right? So I had basically a contract. I couldn't leave my employer at the time. I had to serve my minimum term essentially, which at the time was 5 years to get permanent residency. And I'm grateful, Vision were great at the time to put me on that opportunity. And I just, enjoyed learning what I learned. I think if you wanted to go into business under that umbrella, the only real way that it was ever going to measure up for my goals that I had in terms of financial goals was if I was to own my own studio. And the reality is I did try. I really did try. I put myself, all of the leadership days. I went to all of the management training days. I obviously spent time with the franchisor, as Nick would have himself. But it was just one of them things in life that I put myself out there as much as I possibly could. It just never happened. I never financially had the capital to buy a studio. So back in the day, at Vision, the way that sometimes that would work is you'd have like a finance guy in the background and they would be like a 50-50 split, or you could have like what they call a vendor finance, which is like you pay in future profits, so you don't have the capital to put up front. And the universe just said, no, that's not for you. I had several attempts trying to make that work and it just didn't happen. So I just changed direction. I just try and be intuitive sometimes with my decision making. I'm not saying that that's how everybody should live their life, but I was ready for a change. I'd done that for 5 years and I felt like I knew enough to have a go. I was willing to have a go. I was willing to back myself. And I went into business with a guy I had coached with. And I'll be completely honest with you, my first attempt at business was a failure. It didn't work. I didn't do enough due diligence with the guy I went into business with. We weren't on the same brain, wave with how we saw business, what we were willing to do to grow a business. And that became apparent after our first year in business together, which unfortunately made me start to question my own path. And that's the truth. I actually started to question whether continuing in the fitness industry was ever going to give me the financial compensation that I was looking for, to be able to live in Sydney, to have the money to do the things I like to do. I love to travel. I have family overseas. I didn't want to be in a gym all day, every day, coaching 40 hours a week, every week for the rest of my life. I wanted more than that. And I felt like I had value to offer. I won't go into the details of everything that I did, but, a couple of years of trying something different didn't work out. I came straight back to fitness because it was where my heart was. It was what I felt most passionate about. And it was, what resonated with me. I'd get out of bed in the morning every day and feel passionate about living and doing this stuff. I love helping people. And the deeper I started to ask myself them questions, it always came back to that I loved working with people and I loved helping people. And so I had a second opportunity just after lockdown, after COVID, with my partner and a close friend, and we went into business together again. And we we just went all in. We just burned the boats. Me and Nick had this chat the other day. It's like I didn't leave myself a plan B. Plan A had to work. I had no plan B. I had no money to do a plan B, and I just went all in. And, you know, we were fortunate that, you know, it was the right people at the right time, the right place, the right energy. And, you know, it worked. And we were in business for 3 years. And after our third year, sometimes in life, synchronistically, you just meet people. And as a nutritionist, I got introduced to a guy that owned a huge supplement company, and we just had coffee together. And, you know, he just shared some ideas of what his business was doing. And after a couple of conversations, it was clear that there was a way that we could potentially do something together. And that basically led to me launching my own protein company, which is what you can see on the branding there, the Protein Performance Super Blend, which is a pea and rice peptide blend. It was close to my heart. You know, I'd always worked very closely with nutrition. I was a big advocate of recommending supplements for most of my personal training career. And it was something that I spent my own money on. So I had no issue in bringing that to life. And it was very interesting for me because now I had an opportunity to develop products instead of just recommending them to other people. I could actually work on the back end and start to design the recipe and put the formula together, and super interested in supplements all the time. You know, what was good, what worked, you know, what things were nasty, what would I remove if I could. And that's exactly what I've done. You know, I've gone to work on really making sure that the products are only made of good stuff and no bad stuff. And yeah, that basically was only 3 or 4 months ago. And the business that was handed to me was, they had an Instagram page, and they happened to be in a relationship with a couple of professional mountain bikers. Mountain biking to me is a sport that I have never done. I didn't know anything about, but I knew how to develop an athlete. I had trained with different athletes. I'd been a sort of semi-professional athlete myself, and I trained a lot of athletes through my training career. So I was willing to sit down and chat to these boys. And as soon as I spoke to them, I could see that they were both very serious professionals. They were both very committed to their sport. And we decided to continue to sponsor them in a beneficial way for us and them. And fast forward 3 months, they've basically opened up this opportunity for us to now basically positioned ourselves in the mountain bike world as strength conditioning coaches and sports nutritionists that just happen to supply good quality products to them. And it's probably been the most exciting 12 weeks of business that I've had since I've been in business. It just seems to be things showing up, ease of effort. And for years, you know, working in personal training, I'm sure you guys know, it's hard sometimes to get leads. It's hard to get clients. And this is just one of them events that just being around the right people are like now knocking on our door, sending us direct messages every day saying, hey, how can we work with you? And I never knew that was a real thing in the fitness industry. I've never seen it like that, you know, where people are lining up to want to work with you. And I think we just perseverance, you know, found ourselves in a good opportunity. And that's the business that I'm in today. So it's really exciting. Yeah, does that brings you up to speed with where I am now?
That's so good, Jimmy. That's cool to kind of see that full circle, and it's really only just kicking off, which makes it so exciting. And I guess for the guys listening, we've got a real mixed bag of experience here. We got some fresh out of their course. We got some, you know, for coaching for 5 to 10 years, the ones listening. And then I know there's going to be a couple of gym owners listening to this as well. But I guess just on that one little segue question here, a lot of the work I do with the guys is about finding their ideal customer and working out how to speak to them more directly, how to solve their problems, how to provide for that niche, so to speak. Knowing you and everything you just talked about there, your customers have changed so much over time, from weight loss in someone else's brand to athletes and football, your passion. And I know at a time, like every other PT who does their course, you probably wanted to train athletes as well. Like there's definitely too, and you've kind of ended up in that in a way. And a new sport, and it's so much has changed. So I guess with that journey, do you feel like there is similarities or connections in the type of people that you gravitate towards in wanting to work in terms of an ideal customer, or do you feel like you've just pivoted your mindset to each business that you've moved to?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think at the beginning, like maybe how I think when we first started to build our friendship, Nick, I was very much ready to just start to train people that I felt valued the product more. So to me, the best way I could understand what that looked like was an athlete. I'd spent probably close to 10 years in the first chapter of my career coaching fat loss. And the biggest frustration I always had as a coach was these people just don't do the basics. They just don't listen to what they're being told. And you sort of get that in the beginning and you just work with that. But then you feel like you've got so much more that I've learned as a coach in the 10 years that I've been, learning more things and wanting to help more people. And I just felt like when I was only working with fat loss clients, that what I could offer that as a client was limited. I felt like I had so much more that I could offer. And the only people that would potentially appreciate what I had to offer would be the athletic community. But the reality is that the athletic community only represents less than 5% of society. You realize that you're playing in a very small niche of people. So you either have to have a mission of being the best, and you're literally seen as the go-to guy or girl within that niche of training athletes, or you have to change your strategy. The avatar of who you think is the person you want to train has to change. And for me, I was just willing to adapt at the time. I didn't just get too hung up on the fact that I can only train athletes. If an athlete came, and I'd got the opportunity to train an athlete, great, produce the testimonials, get them the result they're here to do, showcase them, make sure your audience can see that you're capable of working with athletes. You have a strategy that works for athletes, and that you actually talk the language that an athlete wants to hear. And they're big things. And if you're working with top end athletes, they're also looking for the top coaches. So you need to think about how are you being perceived if you're using social media as your avenue to generate leads, whatever the platform you use. You have to make sure that your brand is being seen in the way that you think attracts an athlete, I suppose. And so it wasn't really the design of the business that I'm in today to work with athletes. It just has happened as a natural event of being involved in what we're doing. We've just found ourselves in a community of athletes that really want coaching, and my sport was soccer, right? So coming from the UK, played a lot of football, and I would have dreamed to have 30, 40 lads that just wanted to do football, and I never burned the boats on that. I never went all in on that. I never give it my best shot of only coaching football players. And if I had, I don't know, maybe I would have been a PT that just trained football players. But no, it's definitely something that I think as a coach, if you're working for yourselves, like being crystal clear on your avatar it helps with everything. It helps with how you write your programs, what type of advice you give, your marketing, your sales strategy. Everything comes back to that, having clarity on that very thing. And I guess most trainers are operating in the same pond of trying to help fat loss. Most people are having that conversation. So if you can figure out a way of attracting a different type of avatar, a different type of client, be different. You'll probably find that there's not as many people competing for that person. So that could be like middle-aged men with low testosterone, whatever. Just think outside the box. It's there's lots of different people that need help.
Yeah, awesome share on that one. That kind of ties right into a little of what I've been to speak to you most about, shed some light on, which is the abundant mindset. I guess it's something that I've always felt come across from you strongly, even when you've been up and when you've been down, regardless. Like it's always been there, and something that you're very open about, which I think makes up a lot of who you are, in my opinion. So even though, like I said, I'm sure there's times where you've felt less abundant as well. But I guess my question is more about, where did that kind of mindset begin for you? How have you fostered it to help grow that kind of concept of being abundant in how you go about things, work, training, etc.? someone that might be listening that maybe feels more on the less abundant side, or maybe that they lack options, that they're restricted, that they're very reactive rather than proactive, or that they operate more from maybe almost like a fear-based situation, it's like, I got to pay rent this week, I've just got to find enough money just for rent, for example, rather than thinking a bit bigger than that. Anything on that from your experience? Yes.
They're real problems, right? I mean, again, full transparency, I come from a working class family in the UK. We didn't grow up with money. I didn't grow up around wealthy people. My mom and dad weren't financially literate. They didn't teach us about wealth or generating wealth, or, that was a very foreign language to me until I became an adult myself. I didn't really understand what that was or how to do that. But I think you probably all agree, most of the people that become your clients have disposable income. So they come from money. They have money available in abundance where they can justify paying hundreds of dollars every week on their health. And I think probably it wasn't until I came to Australia that I really started to see the opportunity in opening up conversations with wealthy people. So, real world example, I had a client in his 60s. He had a goal of wanting to run a half marathon before he felt he was too old to do that. And he came to me for advice. He wanted advice about how he should eat, how he should train, how can he make sure he doesn't get injured. And I was like, cool, I can answer all them questions for you. I can add value to the thing that you are after in your life. And I said, could I buy you some lunch? I would be very interested to know, how did you generate all this money? I was pretty humble about it. I wasn't so direct, but I had a relationship and I took him out for lunch. I paid for lunch for him. And I just went really prepared. I've been reading books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, some of the most basic books about money and finance. And I felt like I went quite well prepared. And I think he appreciated that I'd made a little bit of effort. And we ended up speaking for like an hour, and he taught me just things that some people, it might be common knowledge. For me, it wasn't. He taught me about investing in shares. He taught me about all different types of ways to invest, how to structure your money from, like, when you're getting paid, let's just use easy numbers. Let's say $1,000 goes into your bank account every week. He taught me strategies of how to divide that money into different brackets. So invest first. So decide how much of your income you can invest. So, he said, start with 10% or 15%. So that went straight into my investment account before I had a chance to touch it. So automatically every week, on automation, if you like, I had this capital going into like an investment fund. And then what was left, I had available to spend. Most people, when they're young, they go out, they spend all their money. And if they have $50 left, they might invest $50. And for me, that was a game changer. I just started doing that when I was in my early 20s, and I did that for 10 years. And that gave me the opportunity when I was sort of like in my early 30s to do things that some of the other lads that, had been in the same business as me didn't have the opportunity to do. So that would be probably one of the things that I did to start. I think just not being afraid to have difficult conversations. Sorry, this lawnmower man's about to go off here. I'm just gonna have to move.
I can't hear it, bud. I can't hear lawnmower, just so you know. So I think Zoom's doing a good job there in the background noises.
Okay. Yes. So I think the first thing is not being afraid to understand who you're in front of. I was fortunate in the studio I worked in, Mona Vale in Sydney, very affluent area. Lots of very wealthy people came into our studio every day, and they're here to learn from you. They came to my nutrition seminars to ask me questions. So I was like, geez, you've got a lot of information about life that I have no idea about. I bet you I could come to a seminar that you put on about money and learn a lot of stuff. And that was the mentality that I used to have. And they were more than happy to share. Of course, they're not giving away every single secret about everything, but they appreciated the humbleness. They appreciated the willingness of me to just go, hey, look, I don't understand anything about this thing, and I would appreciate it if you could teach me some of the basics. And that was where it started. Maybe some of you guys growing up in Sydney have wealthy parents, and this might not be something that resonates, but for me, that's my story. That's how it started for me. And once you learn how to make your own money make money, it starts to open up a whole different world to you. And then I realized, wow, okay, that it just changes your perspective on being an employee to being a business owner, for example. And then you guys might already be in the position now where you get to decide, if you're going to sell a program, how much is my time worth? Well, that's a very interesting conversation. How much is your time worth? So your time should be your most valuable asset. So, put that in perspective. People are paying hundreds of dollars to see all of these different types of professionals all around the Sydney. So, if you're considering yourself a professional, are you pricing yourself as a professional? That can be a fair conversation. You don't think that you're worthy enough to charge. I've worked in Vision like Nick has. And at the time that I left, Vision Studios were charging $130. And I was watching 18-year-olds come straight in off their Cert 3, Cert 4, and clients paying $130 a week to come and spend an hour with an 18-year-old. And I was like, wow, okay, I've been in this game for like 10, 15 years at this point. So I felt like I was massively undervaluing myself if I wasn't at least charging that. And then, it's if you don't think that you're worth it yet, maybe that's just a conversation that you need to have with yourself and understand that maybe you're holding yourself back, because the abundance mindset is understanding that if you're not worthy of charging more right now, well, what are you going to do about it? What are you willing to do in the next 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 6 months to make sure that in 6 months' time, I've added 25% to my hourly rate? If you're in a position where you're in a business where you can do that. And it's thinking, not waiting for the man to come and give you things, it's like, you got to see, I think you've got to be a bit hungrier than that if you're going to go into entrepreneurship. Anyway, okay. Yeah, it should be okay. Yeah.
Moa.
Yeah,
that's awesome, Jimmy.
Does that help?
Yeah. No, that's great. That nails that.
Look, books are a great place to start, right? So if you haven't even entertained that conversation ever, just pick up a book. Rich Dad Poor Dad is a good one to start with. Just start to learn some of the concepts, and then go from there.
Yeah,
right.
I love it. I've only got one more question. Ro and Ant, I've seen you guys have thrown some questions in the chat, so we'll make sure we get to those as well. We'll circle back to them. But my last one, James, kind of what we talked a little bit about prior to the call, which I guess I feel like the crew will be interested in, especially my crew, which is just a little bit about, like you talked about there when you were talking about your background, which was, when you were capped working for someone else doing X amount of hours, how could you still make more money to still, I guess, grow your business, or at least, cover more bills or whatever it might be. And I guess just a little bit of a segue into the fact that you've launched this P3 company. So I guess from being a coach that's using, say, supplements prior, or like you mentioned to me, other services that you can chuck on top, maybe it's nutrition, maybe it's something else. And just the value on capitalizing the fact that, like you said, you've got already got these clients who are willing to drop hundreds of dollars, and maybe they're spending that money elsewhere as well. You could be capitalizing on more of that as a coach, and kind of becoming that, not dependent on you, but becoming that source of their health and fitness, I guess, taking control of that for them in some ways, and becoming the coach that they're looking for, I think. Rather than, it's like when you have to go to a food shop. Like, I don't want to have to go to Harris Farm and Aldi and Coles just to do my weekly shop. Like, I'd rather just go see James. You know what I mean? So the clients do want that. They want the done for you service. So I guess you've had a great experience of that over the years. I guess just a little bit about that, and maybe touching on what coaches can potentially add to even their weekly revenue, or, service wise, that maybe these guys are thinking about or not thinking about.
Yeah, sure. Again, this is really loud on my end, so I'm sorry if all you can hear is lawnmower. Really loud here, but okay, I'm gonna go anyway.
Totally fine. It's totally fine. Totally fine.
So okay, so the way I used to look at the gym floor when this was probably by the stage I was a manager. Okay, so I had more time to think, and I was trying to help the guys. And in Monavale, this was definitely true. I could probably, any busy morning on the gym floor, I could probably walk around the gym floor and chat to, say, 10 clients. And I would say at least 5 or 6 of them were going to see multiple health professionals in any given week, meaning that they had a physio, an osteo, a chiro, a naturopath, The list goes on. So what I started to think about was, if these people are willing to spend $500-600 a week on going to see health professionals, how could we capture more of that for our business? We're all health professionals. What is it that we could offer more than what we're currently doing, so that they come here for an extra hour instead of having to go to a naturopath, as an example? That's probably the easiest one to link, because the naturopath really was just, doing a couple of health tests and selling them supplements. If you really look at what a naturopath's doing, it's along that lines of doing hormonal imbalance testing, figuring out what they're eating. Are they eating something that they're allergic to? And I was trying to encourage the guys to upskill themselves with nutrition, take an interest in this person's life, a bit deeper than what you're currently doing. And you might be able to get them to come and see you for that second hour instead of them going to see the naturopath every week. So I think just having an understanding of the fact that these people are willing to spend money every week, and often it goes way beyond exercise. So, if you are only at the stage where the level of confidence you have is to teach exercise right now, I guess the next best thing to ask yourself is, what else could I add to my umbrella of skill set that would make me a more valuable coach? So for me, that was already nutrition. Okay, I started with nutrition, and exercise actually came second. But I used to make it my point to be, I want to make sure that when I'm coaching John or Lisa, one of my clients, that I'm irreplaceable. I wanted to be so valuable to these people. The thought of ever canceling my sessions was just like, it wasn't even on their radar, because I just wanted to make sure that they got so much value out of coming to see me every week. And that can be just the conversations as well. Like what Nick said at the beginning, I made sure I never spoke about what I considered dumb conversation. I used to make sure that every single conversation we had was real. It was like, get to know them as people, ask them good questions, really dig deep, and they really value that time. You do almost become like a counselor. If you're a good communicator in this business, you will go far, because essentially, whether you see it yet or not, you are all in the game of relationships. You think you're an exercise coach, you think you're a nutritionist. Yeah, they're the names that get taught to it, but what you're actually doing is you're building relationships with people. So you have to be trustworthy. So it's understanding, well, what makes a person trustworthy? There's so many layers to this, but I just wanted to make sure that I did absolutely everything in my power to minimize the amount of clients that ever left me if they ever started training with me. And the way that I went about doing that was just consistently invested into myself, like upskilling myself in as many different things that I felt was a valuable conversation. And I used to just, spend all of my free time reading, listening to podcasts, upskilling myself. And my vision was always that I want to make sure that in a year from now, 2 years from now, 3, 5 years from now, that my time is double, triple what I'm currently getting paid. And that was how I did it. That was the pathway that I did it. It was no shortcut. It was just a very deliberate approach of becoming more valuable, and just teaching lots of different things. And eventually they just get to the point where, you can pretty much charge for your time whatever you feel is the fair game rate, because you've got an abundance of clients. There's no shortage of clients anymore. You're the guy, you're the person they want to train with, because the value that they get from spending time with you is way beyond what they're getting from anyone else. They're not going to see their counselor every week and get an education on supplements and nutrition and training and mindset and books and podcasts. And, be that guy, be that person for your people. Make sure they see you like that. Make sure that they talk about you when they're having coffee with their friends in a way that's like referring you. That is your brand. How these people talk about you to their friends is your brand. What they say about you when you don't hear them say it, that is essentially your marketing for you. So yeah, hopefully that answers the first part of the question. The second part of the question, I think I touched on a little bit earlier, which is, if you don't already, charge for some type of education around nutrition, you could consider, if your studio or your gym or wherever you're currently operating out of doesn't currently run education days, like you don't put on seminars for your clients, I think it's a really nice way that you can position yourself as like a professional within the gym. And you can do it for free. You don't have to charge for that initially. Practice. I think it's good to be humble in the beginning. Just put your time into developing something. I'm not saying this has to be nutrition, by the way. This could be anything that you're passionate about. For me, it was nutrition, but it could be anything that you're passionate about, whether it's mobility. I know Nick's big on things like handstands and stuff like that. Anything that's a point of difference, anything that's valuable, you know, anything that puts you on a different playing field to everyone else. And eventually you can charge for this stuff, right? Because you're going to get good at it. If you don't get money from actually people coming to your seminar, you're going to get more clients as an absolute minimum. So it's a no-brainer to do stuff like that. And then once you position yourself as an expert in one of the particular fields, for me, that was nutrition. I then had a natural tendency to be able to upsell protein, upsell multivitamins, upsell, you know, things that I knew were taking care of their health and their wellness. And that for me was another way that I grow my revenue when I was just doing PT.
Oh yeah, I guess it's for the guys on the call from my coach's crew. We've kind of talked about, you know, value stacking your offer, and I guess like this is so much of what James is doing there. He may or may not have meant to be doing it like that at the time. He was capitalizing on opportunities to, you know, get a better result for his clients and, you know, improve the bottom line and bring more money in. But if you value stack your offer, like it has so many value benefits, from retention to more money you can charge for it to just better results, you know what I mean? So I think considering that with the offer that you guys are building, the one that are in the crew, and for those that aren't, obviously having a look at your current service that you're doing and going, how could I level up what I'm offering? How could I do more for my people in a way that would want to make them maybe spend more on me, but more importantly, just get better results, etc. That's awesome, Jimmy. And then the other one that I've been waffling onto the crew about, which I think is that all-in concept of that, you know, if you're always looking for greener pastures, the thing you want to really do, or the thing that you're in, will never be the thing that you want it to be. There's an old Swedish drinking song that I have to sing every Christmas with my partner, and it's, if you only take half the shot, you don't even, sorry, if you don't have the whole shot, you don't get half of it. So I think it's really looking at that concept and how, if an FBI was to inspect your whole life right now, or at least your career and your job and how you go about it, you know, would you change anything before they go through and inspect it? And what would that look like? Yeah. Awesome. I'm going to, well, you go, bud.
Sorry, I was just going to say, like, if you haven't already joined the dots, like the fitness industry is so competitive, you know, like if you think that you're going to be successful and earn a ton of money and you're only going to put 50% of your effort in, you're going to learn quite quickly and you're going to fail quite hard. You know, like I've been somebody that's been all in pretty much every attempt I've ever had, and I've still failed, you know, and I think that's how competitive this game is. It's, you know, there's a lot of people that are trying to do this game. But if you really want to do it as a career and go into your 30s, your 40s, I don't know how old your crew is, but, you know, if you're looking to do this for a long time and this is the thing for you, I think that's a really good way to think about it. Like, burn the boats, and like Nick says, it's wherever you water the grass is where it will grow, you know, like, so I think if you can, rather than consider doing a different job at, say, the weekend or in other time, if you're trying to make more money, think about how you become more valuable. You know, how can you offer more services, more products? How can you upsell something? Yeah, I think they're all better questions to ask yourself, rather than thinking that, oh, because I'm not making the money that I want to make right now, that it'll never be any different. I think that's more a reflection of your own mindset than anything else. So, you know, yeah, that's definitely been true from the people that I have watched be successful and go on to be, and there's many different definitions of success. Money is not the only one. Don't get that wrong. You know, like, there's no point in making $1 million if your fucking health is terrible, right? So, you know, don't put yourself into an early grave by just chasing money either. And that's what brought me back to doing the fitness game, you know, is because this is where my heart was, and this is the stuff that I'm most passionate about. So, yeah,
Love it. I think that's our industry, right? And you guys all have either been through this or you've seen it, where there's this little rift, in my opinion. It's the people that kind of see it as a hobby or started as a hobby. And then there's the people that really want to succeed in it and want it to be their career. But what's often missing, I think, is what we're talking about here, is that all in on actually becoming that and building self-worth and confidence and selling and learning and growing, rather than just enjoying it, and then being disappointed when you don't have enough clients or enough money, etc. I'll move through quick, Jimmy, because we're running out of time here. So last thing, he's not going to plug it because it's doing well and he's got bigger plans for it, but I love the P3 stuff. Just if you guys haven't checked it out already, I just wanted to say, as someone that laughs at people walking away with 2 buckets of protein powder out of a supplement store, and you just know that it's just going to shred their gut. The teenage boy who walked away barely carrying the 2 kg buckets. I've always been against subs in terms of proteins because I've never seen them do great things, in my opinion. But this is the first one that I feel like I can actually trust and, you know, use for myself and for my clients. So I would check it out if I was you guys. But regardless, the concept of adding something like that to your value stacked offer could just drastically impact your ability to earn more and get better results. So at least having the knowledge in that area, because it's inevitable, you're going to have a client go to you, which protein should I use? You should at least know and understand and be able to refer, even if you're not going to use it within your company. So I guess just on to the last ones, which is the cruise questions here. We'll just see if we can knock them over. I've got Anthony was the first one we'll go over. He said, do you complement this with affiliate marketing? Example, writing a blog, sharing a post on socials that link to the products that you love to use for yourself and your clients. Do you want to add anything more to that, Anth, or are you kind of happy for him to go for it like that?
Yeah, I'm pretty happy for it to go like that, but I was thinking more, I guess, to add on to that, I guess like your personal twist on it, like how you adding your story or that connection to your clients with the, I guess we'll just probably just start with using affiliate marketing for that as well.
Are you talking about making a little bit of profit on selling supplements? Is that the question? Is that?
Yeah. So you said you go into supplements. You obviously created your own one, but before that, were you referring to other supplements? And then how are you doing that through just conversation
good question.
or?
Yeah. So I guess I was probably fortunate in a sense that I was a qualified nutritionist. So that certificate got me to open a few doors, perhaps that if you are not a nutritionist, you might not be able to do straight away. What I was able to do is affiliate with certain brands as a nutritionist, and they basically give me a wholesale account. So I was able to buy things at cost price and sell it at retail price, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And that was via website, or was that just like with conversation with clients?
Yeah, so some of them had like, as an example, that they could go onto the website to buy the supplements themselves, and they just had to type in my discount code so that they would get the discount and I would get like a kickback for them purchasing the products. So that is one way that you can do it. Earlier in my career, before I knew that was a thing, I used to, in my investment fund, for 2 months, I would put my $50 a week away, and eventually I would get to say $300, $400, $500, and I would purchase bulk buy supplements at wholesale price, and then I would on-sell them to clients at retail price. So my $500 would turn into like say $1,500, and I kept compounding that. So I kept doing that. So that I mean, now in today's world, you don't really have to do it that way. There are definitely easier ways in terms of like affiliate links and stuff like that. If you guys want to start with just protein, like, and this isn't just me trying to plug it, if you want, I can give you access to our products, and you can get a discount code where you can get your clients to buy it with your name, and, you know, it can be tracked once a month, and there'll be kickbacks for that. You know, if you're interested in that conversation, we can maybe talk more after we get off the call. But yeah, that hopefully that sort of helps you understand. Are you actually a nutritionist, Anthony, or what's your
my qualification is health science and sports science, bachelor. Yeah.
Okay.
There's no masters.
I mean, if you've got brands that you like, that you personally use, that you associate with, again, it's that difficult conversation. Are you willing to pick up the phone? You know, sometimes you just got to knock on the door and ask. I don't think there's any issue. Like if you use a brand, if you use a product and you stand by it, you actually use it yourself, and you sort of had that conversation with the team and just say, look, I'd be very interested in, you know, on selling your products to my clients. I have 30 clients that come and see me every week. You know, what could we work out together? It's a no-brainer for them. If they're in business and you're willing to help them sell their product, you know, like I understand it from that perspective now. You know, it's like, of course, why would I say no to you? You're a passionate guy. You've called me up. You want to help. You want to, you know, you clearly want to help your clients. it's a win-win.
Yeah, you can become more resourceful that way as well if you extend your
Absolutely.
business without having to
Yeah.
actually produce those things yourself. So
Yeah.
cool. Thanks, James.
Nice.
All good.
Knowing you, Anthony, I guess, and James, you guys might have a further chat afterwards, because I know Anthony's much more into it's not just the movement, it's the coaching side, it's the health side, it's everything, having his own nutritional, I guess, obstacles in your past as well, right? Or current, present, they're ongoing.
They're ongoing,
so I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't want to diminish that. Yeah. Knowing you, I guess it is that, how can you be that complete picture for your clients, which is definitely along the lines of kind of what you're talking about there, and taking up more of that threshold that they're spending, etc. So that's a good one. I think you guys could have a good further chat post if you want to tee that up.
Thanks, man. That'd be great.
Let's kick into the next one though. Rollins, looking back at your first business, James, apart from getting to know your partner better, what would you have done differently, and what worked for you later on? I guess you're talking about your time where it didn't work out in the business partnerships, and I'll just I'll unmute you as well if you want, Rollins, so you can add in if you need.
I think
otherwise, go for it, James.
Yeah, I would say if I was to reflect back, I was so desperate to get out of the current work environment that I was in that desperate's the right word, that I just took the first opportunity. And this guy was someone that had worked in the studio with me previously. And, if I think about it now, he actually wasn't a fantastic employee. He didn't stick around very long. He just had a space. He had the money, and he had a client that had basically built a really nice facility. Nick seen the facility. It was a good facility, but just didn't have the mindset of a business operator. And as I got to know him more, I realized he didn't have that desire to build wealth or build a business financially. He was already in a wealthy family. I think he knew that there was money coming, on the passing of his parents, which isn't a very nice perspective to take, but I know that was how this guy used to think. And because of that, it killed his work appetite. He wasn't willing to do the hard things, like when you are a brand new business and you're not willing to go and speak to people, you're not going to last very long. And I was in business with this guy, and I quickly realized that it was only my efforts and attempts that was keeping the business afloat. And it was just toxic. There's lots of different things I could go into, but if I was to repeat that journey, I would say, do your due diligence, make sure that you actually have. I was fortunate, I got to run somebody else's business. So I was a manager like Nick. And the great thing about managing someone else's business is your capital isn't on the line. You just get to learn all of the operational stuff. You get to learn to sell. You get to learn to market the business. You see the P&Ls of every financial year. You get to do recruitment. You hire people. And, everything that is needed to be a successful business owner, you get that opportunity to do. And I was very grateful for that. So if you guys are not at that stage yet, or that is a desire that you have of going into business or owning your own business, my advice would be to make sure that you understand, what does that mean? What does being in business mean? What are all of the skills needed to run a successful business? Nick would answer that for you. He could tell you what that looks like, but that would be where I would start, and make sure you've got some experience in all of them areas. Or you make sure that if you're going into business and you don't have some of them skills, that your business partner does. Because again, business is hard. It's a hard game, and you've got to make sure that you're well equipped. You go into war, like every day is a battle in business, like you've got to be ready for it.
Yeah, nice.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Here he is, Rollins, coming in hot from Bali. I think, and I'll just add a tiny bit onto that from my experience of doing those things, is the expectations have got to be there. Like Rollins, for example, if you're looking at going into business with someone, hence that question, maybe a clear expectation of who's doing what, like if someone's bringing the money and you're bringing the skill set, like at least both parties understand that. Or if someone's 30% and someone's 70%, like is that reflective of who's doing how much work, and making that clear from the beginning? Because like you said, communication is key in the game, but in business and with other people, it becomes even more important, because that can be a limiting factor. Last question, Pete. Last one, guys, because I'm aware of going over time. Great chat, bud. Massively inspiring. Any more fave books, biz or training or personal interest? Love a good read. Also, any tips on facing that fear and finding the courage in your early year, and maybe even still now? Pete, oh, you can unmute and jump in, but just to give you an idea, Jimmy, Pete's just changed career and moved into the fitness industry and just developing his confidence, I guess, as a coach.
Yeah. What's the fear, Pete? That's probably a good place to start. What is the actual fear that you are aware of?
Probably knowledge, mate. Obviously being surrounded by people who have a lot of it. Coming from a different sort of space myself, I guess the passion there, the desire to grow my own business and to help people is very strong. I guess it's really identifying like on this call, we've talked about a lot of avenues and where you can help people. It's, I guess, identifying where I can kind of put my own personal experience to help, but also having the confidence to share that with clients in a nutshell.
Cool. So what would you say your biggest skill is? What are you most passionate about? What's the one thing that if you were to say, yeah, this is what I'm good at, what would you say that is?
Mate, I think the thing that is combining mindset, really, overcoming trauma challenges, and how to use, I guess, physical activity, nutrition to a degree, but more kind of exercise to kind of get through those times. But on the side of that, I guess, sort of different techniques in order to kind of harness self-discipline and push through difficult times. Cool.
And is your target audience people with them same issues? Are you hoping to help people similar to I guess, the experiences you've had? Is that
Correct,
your avatar?
That if it's my avatar, for want of a better word, mate. As said, as Nick said, very much at the start of the journey, but that would be my my current avatar or person I want to help, I guess.
Cool. I mean, look, there's no shortcut to upskilling yourself in knowledge. That's just time. You just need to understand patience. You know, don't compare yourself to someone who's in year 10 if you're in year 1. You know, that's not healthy. That's not a healthy thing to do. And that is true for all things in life, you know, money, bank accounts, relationships, finance, work experience. You know, just be realistic with where you're at. If you're in year 1, just have the right mentality, you know, be willing to go and read the right things, learn the right things. You know, Nick's a great guy. I'm sure he can put you onto some great books, some great people to learn from. You know, again, more than happy to give you a recommended reading list if you're interested in that sort of stuff. And then the fear side of things is just practice. Every single human being, if they're honest enough and transparent enough, they'll tell you that they've got fears. We all have fears. Speaking in public is a big fear of mine. You know, that's something I've had to work very hard on to have confidence to do. But, you know, the very first thing that I did in my fitness career was put a seminar on for people, and it terrified me, terrified the life out of me. I was stood at this hallway, already had no confidence, and I just chose to talk about something that I knew, you know, so that was how it worked for me. I was probably spoke very nervously, very shy, probably didn't deliver didn't have the impact that I could maybe have today if I delivered the same seminar, but I had the courage to stand there. And I think if you're going to go into business, you've got to back yourself, because if you're waiting for someone else to come and be your cheerleader, it's not going to happen. You know, you have to find that strength from within. And I think just keep practicing the hard stuff. So if the hard stuff for you right now is sharing your story, then keep sharing your story. Get on Instagram, share your story, you know, talk about it. Let people know who you are, share your vulnerabilities, be transparent. You know, people appreciate that stuff. That would be my advice.
Nice, mate. Yeah. No, much appreciated, mate. And yeah, thanks for the chat today, dude. It's been, as I said, very inspiring.
No, all good. All good.
Nice one.
You've just sent me on a tangent of thinking about becoming comfortable in the uncomfortable. I remember as in school, I can't even remember where I was, primary school or high school, we had to do I was one of the Three Kings singing that song, We Three Kings, and the other two sang their bit, and then I go, We Three Kings, just really quietly. Couldn't get the confidence to sing it up in front of a crowd, you know what I mean? But, you know, like James said, hold seminars, go do them, you know? One of my favorite ones was handstands, because when you can't handstand, but you got to do your practice, and then you're out in the middle of the park and people are walking past you and you're kicking up wildly and not sticking it and looking like an idiot. Like you just keep doing it and you overcome the fear, and then you practice and you get better and whatnot. So I love that concept. And I just share a little bit of mine there as well. But I think for any of you guys feeling that fear, and also for the like, what's the one, the imposter syndrome. I hear that one a lot. Like people feeling like an imposter being an expert or being an authority on a topic or something like that. If you feel that way, like James said, there's two ways to go about it. Learn more about it, or just dive in and do it and become better at talking about it. And my favorite thing to suggest to coaches is, rather than someone asking you a question and you freaking out and feeling like a stunned fish because you don't know the answer, just honestly, I actually don't know the answer to that, but you know what? I'm going to go find out and research and learn it today. And if you start building that mentality, you start just adding to the point where you don't get caught out as much, because you do know all the things, or you know how to go about answering them. So awesome. Does anyone want to chuck a final question in? Mon, do you have anything, being someone interested in nutrition yourself, considering Liv's not on this call and she's going to watch it later? Is there anything you'd like to ask from a nutrition/coach point of view? Otherwise, we might wrap there unless anyone else wants to jump in. Last chance.
I guess the thing I'd be interested in, because I have one client who is very busy. She has a full-time job, and I've sort of tried to introduce nutrition to her and starting to think about that. So I'd be curious to how you go about sort of introducing the topic of nutrition to your clients. Is that something you do throughout the coaching process? Do you start with it? Is it sort of like a midway kind of point, and then do you ask them to sort of do a journal to begin with and then come up with a plan from there? And how do you go about that nutrition side of things in the coaching process, I guess?
It's a good one.
It's a good question. And it's really important, because if you consider yourself a health professional and these people are coming to you for health advice and you're not having a conversation around nutrition, then the dots haven't been connected yet. So my first protocol would be to review probably your qualification process in terms of, how do you bring these people on board your coaching services? What are they buying from you when they buy something? Are you promising something? Are you selling a result? Are you just selling training? If you're only selling training, then maybe think about, how do you sell nutrition? And to answer your question, I think it's just having them conversations. These people are coming to you because you're the expert, right? So this lady, she's busy. She doesn't understand yet in her own journey that nutrition matters. You do know that. You do know that that matters. So therefore, it's on you. It's your responsibility to have that conversation. So I would take an active interest into how she eats and help her understand that to get to where she wants to go, which is her goal. I'm assuming that you have something of a goal written down for her. You have to connect the dots that, that she won't get there by just simply turning up and doing a little bit of training once a week, that at some point that there is going to have to be some changes made around nutrition. And the way that you can do that, earlier in my career, we used to just do it like handwritten because there wasn't apps back then. But, now there are apps. You can do things like MyFitnessPal, or you can simply just get your clients to take pictures of their food. I use a coaching app now called True Coach, and I get my clients to take pictures of what they eat for breakfast, what they have for lunch, and what they have for dinner, and then anything they snack on. And it just gives them the opportunity to upload that, so they're not having to, write things down. If writing it is too time consuming, they can literally take out their phone. Within a second, they take a picture of what they have. And then your goal as the nutritionist is just to provide accountability and just gently over time start to improve their behaviors.
Yeah, awesome.
Does that help?
Yeah, no, definitely. That's great.
I think it's just trusting yourself. Trust yourself. If you're the nutritionist and you're not having a conversation around nutrition, well, there's a problem. You should be having a conversation about nutrition if you're taking your skill set seriously. If you're not quite there yet, that's fine. Just be honest about that you're not quite there yet, and just do what you've got to do to be there. If it's a difficult conversation, maybe practice with your friends. Practice having that conversation of, how do I start a conversation around nutrition?
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, I mean, I asked her about nutrition and sort of on her own level how she felt about how much she was eating and if she was eating enough, and she said, I'm probably not eating enough. So it sort of highlighted to me that she So I started to roll into the conversation, you know, if you wanted to have a chat about nutrition, let me know. And she was definitely interested. So it's just,
Cool.
it's just
So you could
asking,
go back-
I guess. And
Yeah.
yeah.
You could just go back to her, say, hey, look, I really appreciated your honesty last week when you told me about you think that you might be under eating. Just say, I think I've got the solution to help us both. For me, it's going to give me more transparency in what you're actually doing. And I think for you, it will show you what's really going on. Why don't we try this? And suggest it, you know, be the professional, back yourself, make a suggestion. And then she'll go, oh, wow, she knows what she's doing. And you'll go, yeah, wow, yeah, maybe I do.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Thanks, James.
Cool.
Love it, Jimmy. Good question, Mon. Mon's another coach who's, I guess, changing career and getting started. So good to
Cool.
get that confidence
Yeah,
straight
it's
off the
good.
bat. Awesome. All right, guys, I won't keep you guys any longer. I'm aware of taking up people's time as much as I'm loving this call and don't really want to get off, but you know, that's how these things are. So fun. Thank you so much for everyone who jumped on, and especially thanks so much to James. Like, incredible amounts of value in that. That's been recorded, so there's gonna be plenty more people watching this one. But yeah, thank you, team. Go all in.
All right, thanks, guys. I say, I'm on Instagram. You know, you can find me through Nick's Instagram. If you have any questions around supplements, if you're interested to try or you want something to offer for your own clients, I can help set something up for you. So just reach out. Happy to answer any questions. Have a good day.
I'll be sharing an email with the recording, and I'll put his contact details in there for you as well, gang. So game on. We can stay in touch. Oh yeah.
All right.
Thank
Have a
you,
good day,
team.
guys. Bye.